go. Oh, I should have a little bit of audio on this trailer. Okay. What is up, everybody? This is Anthony with VR 365. What is going on? It is the National NoManSki Day. Yes, it is NoManSki all day. And I took the day off work, played NoManSki all day long. Bobby did it as well. We're going to cover every little detail, or maybe not. No, I did not take the day off work. I had to work all day. I have not played No Man's Sky. In fact, I've never, ever in my entire life played No Man's Sky. But I got good news, folks. Bobby Blackwolf is a No Man's Sky expert, and he was in there all day long. Right, Bobby? Right? Okay, maybe not quite, but
no.
Today, back by popular demand, folks, we have Bobby Blackwolf in the house, and I'll tell you what, it really is popular demand. Of all the different guests that I've had over since I started having people on here, I probably have had more requests to bring Bobby back than maybe any other guest that I've had. So that's pretty cool. Bobby, how's it going?
It's going great over here. How is it going with you guys? You've gotten a lot bigger. Your show.
Oh, really?
More places, yeah.
Oh, yeah. We're on Twitch a little bit now, and
You're on my home now. You're coming to my turf.
Yeah, well, you know what? There's the great exodus, right? Everybody is departing Twitch, and so it's like
not everybody.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, why don't we go right into that? It's one of the questions. So today, while I was at work, I used something called paper and a pen. Yeah, look at this. It is so antiquated. And I figured while I'm working throughout the day, little ideas would pop into my mind, a potential question for Bobby. And one of the questions I have is 3 words. Is Twitch dead?
Short answer, no. Long answer, no.
But dude, Ninja, bro.
So?
Ninja.
So, we still have the dude that goes into the bathroom at E3. He's still there. We still have the person who threw the cat.
Okay.
Twitch is not dead. No, it's kind of. I see why people are saying it, but right now the viewers are still there and the streamers are still there. I'm actually part of the local streaming group here in Atlanta. And it's still vast majority Twitch, even though we actually have Mixer reps that live in the city and go to local things and try to push Mixer. We don't have that many people going to Mixer. I know D Live, I think, is another alternative that some people are going to, but the majority of people right now are still on Twitch. We said the same thing about YouTube. That's obviously, people are leaving YouTube. So eventually people are leaving Twitch, I'm sure. But I don't think right now is the time.
What about, let's say people really were leaving Twitch in droves. Could that possibly be beneficial to the people that stay around? Because then, there goes a lot of the, maybe more love for you. I don't know. What is that?
Well, I mean, because what you'll find is that people will really attach to a specific platform. And if a content creator is not on that platform, they're not going to watch it. They're not going to type in the URL for something else, or maybe they really love the YouTube app and they don't like the Twitch app on their phone. And so it could, it depends on where the viewers are. Right now, I think most of the viewers are still on Twitch. Some have left for Mixer or YouTube or D Live or something like that, but Twitch isn't dead yet. I'm not ringing the bell yet for it.
Okay. I talked with you about this a little bit on the pre-show, but I'll talk with you a little since we're on the subject of Twitch right now. Last Saturday, I had a special guest, ZimTalk5, and he kind of got his start on Twitch, and Twitch was his thing. I think he has 14,000 followers or so, or whatever it is on Twitch, which is pretty good for probably really good actually for a VR dedicated show.
Yeah.
And he was telling me that they don't have a VR category anymore.
Yeah, they removed it. Yeah.
And he also, one of the main things he was telling me is that if you're new and you hop on Twitch and people don't know who you are, you're a dead duck, because he was saying there's like no discoverability, like there's no way for people to find you. It's almost like you're on your own little private island, and if somehow people aren't driving their boat directly to that island, they're never going to spot you. Where with YouTube, you do have the suggestions that come in on the side. And what would you say to that?
Well, Twitch does give suggestions because now they look at like tags of what you've watched. So it's suggesting to me Audica streamers. So I get those on my follows page under the people that I'm already following. But also, I mean, having been doing stuff like podcasting for over 14 years and stuff, you've got to still put yourself out there a little bit. Join local communities. I mean, now there's Discord servers for everything. Join a Discord server, see if they've got a promotions channel. Like I joined the local Atlanta live streamers group, and that's gotten me some. So you still have to go out there and promote. You can't expect the companies, the corporate overlords, to do all the work for you. You still need to get out there. You need to get into other communities, not just to spam yourself, but actually join the communities, and then maybe drop every once in a while, hey, after VR 365, maybe I'm going to go on Twitch and I'm going to go stream something. Hey, if anybody, when the show's over, wants to come over, then do that. And one of the things we do on my network, the Voice of Geeks network, we're on Twitch on Sunday nights, is that we will send our audience to one of these smaller streamers, especially if they're from our community, we'll raid them, which basically takes everybody that's in our chat, puts it in their chat, puts it on their viewing their stuff. And we try to build the community that way. So you can't expect Amazon to promote everything and everybody. Microsoft doesn't promote everybody on Mixer. Google definitely doesn't promote everybody on YouTube. You can't count on the algorithm. You still got to do some of the legwork yourself.
Yeah, that's not what I wanted to hear. No, I'm just kidding. I totally get it. One thing that does bother me about Twitch, and I know this is not like they're completely different platforms and it's kind of a different idea. When you think about YouTube, you think about pre-recorded content, edited content, polished content. And then when you think about Twitch, it's like just live streaming of gameplay. I haven't live streamed gameplay. I probably should do that. But when I do these shows, like I'll do a live stream of like this talk show, right? This news show. And then so when it's done and it holds my video for 14 days or whatever it is, and then it disappears into the mist. But the one thing that does suck about it for me is like, where do people leave comments for like a video? And like, I don't even see the comments. It's almost like you have to go on a major hunt to even find if there's a comment. So I guess it's not really designed for that. No?
No, you don't. Well, what we do is you make a highlight of your entire video and then it saves it forever. So you make the highlight, but also in your, and this is a little inside baseball for people that don't stream on Twitch, you go in your Twitch dashboard and you see video moderation, and you'll see when people left comments, and they leave comments at specific timestamps. So they can comment at a specific section of the video. It shows up in your video moderation tab.
But for people that are just watching it, it seems like people that aren't used to Twitch, maybe.
Right. They don't have a comment section that persists below. It's all in the moment live chat, and that's just where Twitch is a little bit different. But they do have the ability, you can upload videos, you can actually premiere them at specific times. You can actually do reruns and stuff where they show on your Twitch. That's actually what Zimtalk did a lot. He actually had a separate channel that was just reruns of his previous content. So there's ways around it.
So there's tricks of the trade, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and grab a NoManSki trailer real quick because you actually did play NoManSki a little bit today. So obviously you're playing it on your Valve Index. I mean, how incredible was it?
Right. No. So unfortunately, no, I do still have to work during the day, but I hopefully my boss is not watching this. I did skip away and got the update on my PlayStation 4 because I bought NoManSki the day it came out in 2016. I was one of those suckers. But I never sold it back. I never traded it in. So I have it for PS4. I did not double dip. So I'm playing it. I played it a little bit on the PlayStation VR with the DualShock controller. I don't know if that one uses the Move controllers. I didn't try. So I have a PS4 regular, so not even the PS4 Pro. It actually performed okay. I know that the PC version's having some issues with some lower end, minimum spec builds or even moderate spec. Like it probably chug on my machine. Let's be honest. But it performed pretty fine on the PlayStation VR. Some of the text is a little blurry, like in the ship, but it's very obvious that they're trying to shoehorn the UI elements into VR. They tried to get like some of the UI elements to work in VR and tried to get it. And I know they've said that they spent a lot of time on it, but it's just a slog to use sometimes. And especially like when you're trying to do base building, some of the UI elements get hidden behind the thing you're trying to deal with and build. And so it was actually really hard to like do the base building aspect of it. So I probably wouldn't go in VR to build a base, but flying around in the ship, jumping around, that was cool. The thing it does that's weird with the DualShock, because I know like on the PC, on the Valve Index, you're going to use your knuckles or your touch or whatever you're going to use, is that they still use the 6-axis part of the DualShock, and I didn't realize it. And so I'm like, why is it like tilted like that when I was trying to bring up my visor, the headset visor? And it turns out, oh, you actually have to aim with the controller. You actually have to like use the DualShock controller to aim around to be able to do things like shooting things or analyzing things. So it's weird. It kind of takes a little bit of time to get used to, but it looks fun. It looks great. And the ship combat's probably really where it shines in the VR stuff. But that is only from 30 minutes of playing it. I hadn't played it in a year because I played it with the next update. I totally forgot how to play. I mean, I basically just have to start a brand new game and just start from scratch because I totally forgot what I was doing and what I was trying to do before.
You know, way back when you first got No Man's Sky, like when it first launched, were you one of the people that was really into it, or were you one of the people that was like really bummed out by it?
In the middle.
In the middle, okay.
Because I knew exactly what they had actually said was going to be in there. A lot of people on the internet, they do this thing where they fill in the blanks. And they'll take comments out of context or they'll extrapolate. And then they build it up so high in their head. And even Hello Games was like, no. I mean, temper your expectations down a little bit. And everybody's like, no, it's going to be the greatest thing ever. I never thought it was going to be the greatest thing ever. It was enjoyable for the time. And then I put it down, and then the next update came out a couple years later and picked it right back up. And I'm like, yeah, this is one of the greatest redemption stories in gaming. I think this and Final Fantasy XIV are two of the greatest gaming redemption stories that we've seen very recently in terms of a game that was terrible or not as good when it came out and then just totally redeemed itself after a couple years.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. Have you ever played Drive Club VR on PlayStation VR? Okay, so Drive Club, I've always said this, that Drive Club VR is the poster child for what I call the Vaseline effect. And what I mean by that is like imagine you got a 55-inch big screen TV and you take yourself a nice jar of petroleum jelly and you grab a butter knife and you thinly spread a nice layer over the entire, Drive Club kind of has that like shimmery, pixely, chunky. And so when I thought about No Man's Sky, like getting this thing to run on a base level PlayStation 4, which is what you have, like that is wizardry of the highest order. Do you feel like it does have that Drive Club effect, though, for like the backgrounds? Okay, so it does.
Not really the backgrounds. Where I see it is when I go in my ship, I can tell like all the words that are on not the HUD of the ship, but there's like these little panels in the ship. Like one will like say what planet you're on. It's got your name and stuff like that. That's blurry. Now with the UI, when the UI comes up and you bring up the your inventory and stuff, that's not blurry. But like the actual like text in the ship that's part of the ship, that actually is a little blurry. That's where I saw it the most.
Okay, but it's not a deal breaker. Like you feel like you can still pretty much enjoy it.
Yeah.
So at least PlayStation VR people should be pretty happy about this, especially from the standpoint that I was talking about this yesterday on my show. PlayStation VR, if you look at like the last 2 months, pretty slow over there. They haven't had a lot. Like the last big game they had, I think, was Vacation Simulator finally coming to PlayStation VR. That was like really early June. And then since then, it's been kind of crickets over there. So I'm sure they're loving this finally to have something big. Okay, so let's go off of that game for a second and let's talk. Go ahead.
One more thing for you for No Man's Sky, because I know you have never played No Man's Sky.
Yeah.
And I'm going to warn you. It does not hold your hand. I watched somebody else, one of my other listeners on Twitch. He actually played it for the first time on the Valve Index. And it does not really tell you. It tells you a little bit of what you're supposed to do, but there's still blanks that are filled out. So expect a frustrating experience when you start it, because you're not going to really grasp everything. And it's one of those, like, it's almost, and I know this is going to be sacrilege. You ready for this?
Go ahead.
Might be good to play it on a monitor first for about 15, 20 minutes before putting on the headset. I know, that's sacrilege, but you might have a more enjoyable time for the next however many hours that you played in VR if you get your bearings by doing it, playing it the way it was intended to be played originally.
Okay, what about this? Let's say that I'm like a YouTube guy with very little time on my hands. So I really don't even want to screw with this game almost, but I have to, because I have to check it out. I have to see what it's all about. So Gary, Reckoner VR, he's another host of VR Roundtable and a big-time No Man's Sky lover. He told me just go into creative mode. So you don't even have to like bother with all the other stuff. You just go right in it. You can kind of see some planets. You can jump in the spaceship. Is that a good idea, you think?
Yes. Yes, it is.
So that's probably what I'll try to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is No Man's Sky. A lot of people might consider this the game of the year for VR gaming. But you know what the real game of the year for VR gaming is? Of course, it is the one and only Audica, one of my all-time favorites. And we've talked, I think we talked with Bobby about this last time, but we didn't talk very long about it. Like, I think we got to it very late in the episode. And so I don't want to rehash the whole Audica thing, but there is one major question I do want to ask you about Audica, because I'm on my show or if I'm on some other show, I happen to mention Audica, and I'll mention that so far this year, this is my game of the year, and it's not even close. It's like a country mile. It's a boat race. Like, the next game is so far back, it's like not even worth discussing. Now, I'm not saying it's going to ultimately be my game of the year. Right. Something can come out of from nowhere. Even No Man's Sky. Maybe No Man's Sky is the game. So it could change. But right now, it's my game of the year. But here's the thing. I'll say all of this stuff. There's people out there that respect my opinion, and some of them have bought Audica, and then they're like, Anthony, what the hell? This shit sucks. And so my question for you, okay, you've probably seen this movie, an absolute classic. It is called Full Metal Jacket. And in the movie Full Metal Jacket, the drill sergeant says, "What's your major malfunction, Private?" And that's what I want to say to these people. What is their major malfunction? How can people not like Audica? What is going on here?
So they may not like EDM, because it's very EDM heavy soundtrack. I mean, they did just add Dragon Force. And a lot of people just may not enjoy that gameplay. I mean, it is gameplay that we've seen in other rhythm games. It's like Ostatake Owendan or Elite Beat Agents in America. And they may just not really enjoy that gameplay. But a lot of people, it might be the soundtrack. If you're not a fan of EDM, even if the gameplay is great, you may not get into it, which is why I thought it was great that they added Dragon Force a couple weeks ago. And it's funny because you go on the Steam discussions, and the first thing somebody said is, "Why are you adding something that's not EDM?" And I'm like, I actually like the fact that they added something that's not EDM.
Yeah, so that could be it. But like somebody like me, like, I don't know anything about this stuff. I just went into the game, like, I don't know what kind of music it is, and it's not the music that I'm going to be bumping in my car as I drive home from work, but But when I go into a game like this, it's like same thing with Beat Saber. It's like the music that's in Beat Saber, I'm not necessarily bumping that in my car either, but I understand it's a rhythm game, and if you go with the flow, you have fun. You have fun with it, and the game is sublime, man. This game is just so damn good. But is it the I think the biggest factor with Audica is that if you play it for 20 minutes, even a half an hour, you could come away that it's kind of craptacular. But you play it for 3 hours, and it's a whole different ball game.
If your arms let you.
Yeah.
Because like I learn I skip like arm day because right here, usually after about 5 minutes, my arms are like, "What are you doing? Holding these out like this?" So, yeah, I think what it is also is that people are like, why can't I put my own songs in? And where's the modding community? Which there is a modding community for Audica, but it's not as big as Beat Saber because a lot of people who like Beat Saber, especially on PC, don't like the songs that come with Beat Saber. They only play Beat Saber for the extra hard versions of other songs that they download. And that may be some of it too, is that they're like, where's the modding community? Why can't I play my own songs? And then that's part of it because like Audio Shield lets you use any song, and some of the other rhythm games out there. People are now used to music games. They should be able to use any song that exists in the world, and Audica doesn't let you do that.
To me, it seems like with a game like this, the way I approach these kind of games, like Dance Central or something like that, is like, I don't even worry about add-ons or mods or anything like that because I always come into it with this idea where it's like, okay, I'm just going to enjoy what the game has vanilla style. I'm going to try to enjoy that as much as possible. And then, like, eventually I might get kind of bored of that stuff. And then I'll start looking at DLC packs or mods. But, like, some people, like, they just immediately want everything. And I guess they get irritated by it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Onikaze asked, what are they? What is Dragon Force Speed Metal? If you remember, if you ever did play Guitar Hero and you remember Through the Fire and Flames, which is like this 7-minute speed metal, power metal, very 8-bit Nintendo inspired metal song, that's Dragon Force. So it's basically the new one of their new songs is in there. So it's like 2 speed rhythm guitarists or electric guitarists are like the main ones, and there's a guy singing like at the beginning, at the end, but then he like drinks water in the middle during the big guitar solo.
I play 2 songs on Audica. I play Gold Dust and I play Pop Stars. And it's just Gold Dust and Pop Stars, Gold Dust and Pop Stars. Because
mine is Savant by Splinter. That's my warm up. That's the only one I've full comboed.
Okay. See, for me, it's like I just want to play the same. Like, I will literally fire up Audica and I put on Pop Stars and I basically do it like 25 times, just over and over again. I'm just trying to get a new high score for myself. And then I'm looking at my friends list. And like, if there's one guy that's just a little bit above me, I'm trying to jump above him. And that's basically it. And then, Gold Dust. Then I switch over to Gold Dust. There's one other song. It might be like I Want You or something like that.
There's an I Want You. Yeah.
Okay. I kind of like that one too. And then it's like, I feel like I'm just going to play those songs. And then if I eventually get to the point where I feel like I've really mastered them, then I'll go look for another song. I'm not even worried about DLC and stuff. The one thing I'll say about Audica, and I wonder if you agree with this, is that my Audica is the highest high for me in VR. Like I've never felt more exhilarated in any game than I have like when you're nailing something, and especially when you're doing really good, and then it's one of those moments where you're like, you know what I mean, and it's like, it looks so good. Now you've got a Valve Index, right? And you've been playing your Valve. And here's a question for you: is this game like a marriage made in heaven for the Valve Index? I think it is.
Yeah. No, and when I got the Valve Index, and one of the first things that I was worried about with the Valve Index, because I also got an Oculus Rift S, and so I care a lot about audio, which is, real weird to say for VR because it's all about resolution and video and what you can see and stereoscopic and all that stuff. But for me, it's really the audio. And the Oculus Rift S has the speakers that are kind of like what the HoloLens has. and it kind of didn't do it for me when I played Audica and Beat Saber in them. So I had to bring out these headphones, plug them into the 3.5 millimeter jack, which I'm glad they have. Oculus is better than Apple and Samsung in that regard. Then I was able to play it, and it was fine. But then I saw, okay, the Valve Index doesn't have on-ear headphones either. And it wasn't until I got in Audica that I understood that those headphones on the Valve Index are the best part of that headset.
Oh, by far. Honestly, I think those headphones, like I don't even consider them headphones. They're basically just little floating speakers, right?
Yeah.
And a couple of things that I've said about this, that one of the first things I've said is if you're ever somewhere, like at some kind of event somewhere, and you bump into somebody that works for Oculus, or you bump into somebody that works for HTC Vive, or Google, or Apple, or whoever, like this is the problem solved. Like when it comes to AR and VR, we're always going to want to have some kind of audio, right? And I feel like now the problem eventually when we get into much smaller headsets, this will be harder to do because the advantage of having a headset that goes all the way around your head and you've got like a halo kind of a thing and all of that, you can then attach the floating speakers on there and it has the weight to hold it. That'll become more problematic as these things get smaller and smaller and smaller. But right now, the problem's been solved. This is the audio solution forever. And it's like anytime I go to any of my other headsets, it's like, oh man, now I gotta like get my headphones out and it's not fair.
And then I do really like the Knuckles controller, and especially like in Audica, where I can throw the guns and then bring them back or twirl them and stuff. And you can also shoot yourself in the head. I got taught that last night when I was streaming this. And you should try it. Shoot yourself in the head and see what happens. It's kind of trippy. But I mean, I also really like the Knuckles controllers, especially because I was finally able to tell JobBot and Job Simulator exactly what I thought of his jobs. So that was kind of nice because they added Knuckles controller support. So no, I'm really liking my Valve Index. My HTC Vive's probably going to be gone.
Yeah.
At some point.
Yeah, and you were able to get the one where it was just the Index and the controller because you already have the base stations, or did you get the full package?
I got the full
Index. Though, did you ever have I went through a roller coaster ride with the thing? There was actually a certain day where, because when I first got the Valve Index, and my audience knows this very well, but I'll just explain it to you real quick. When I first got the Valve Index, the very first time I put it on my head and I was looking at like the Steam VR Home, and I'm looking at the just a standard Steam VR Home. The very first second that happened, I saw screen door and I'm like, whoa, screen door, what is going on here? I for some reason was seeing screen door. And then the other thing that really bothered me was the glare. Like, so many things that I went into just had so much glare, and I was like, God, this glare, this screen door is killing it for me. And so there was like one day where I said, if somebody came over to my house and they had $1,100, because I had to pay like tax and all this stuff.
Yeah, I did too, yeah.
If they gave me $1,100, I would say, take it away. Go ahead. Give me the $1,100. You can take everything away. And then like 2 days later, I completely flipped my opinion because of the games I played. I played Jet Island. I don't know if you've ever tried Jet Island, but Jet Island on the Valve Index is a revelation. Audica on the Valve Index is a revelation. And the thing about Audica, I think one of the reasons why it looks so good on the Valve Index is because of the verticality. The Valve Index gives you that extra vertical FOV, and Audica kind of goes up a little bit like that. It has a little bit. And same thing with Jet Island. And then there's a number of other games I played on the Valve Index where I'm just like, oh my God, this looks so gorgeous. It looks beautiful. I don't really see the glare, or the glare disappeared pretty quickly. Did you notice the glare issue? Because it's probably the number one complaint people do have.
Yeah, but I'm a little more agreeable on stuff, and so it doesn't really bother me. But yes, I do see it. I also saw it in the CV1 of the Oculus Rift. I saw some of that glare too.
Yeah.
I was used to it.
Do you feel like it's worse than the CV1 as far as
No.
glare, or about the same?
Not to me, no.
Okay. You know, one thing I've noticed about the Valve Index, I've said this a lot, is because I actually went back to my CV1. I don't have a Rift S right now, but I went back to my CV1 because I wanted to try Defector. I was playing it in the Valve Index, but it felt like it just wasn't right. And I wanted to go back to like pure Oculus. And also there were some other Oculus stuff that I wanted to try, and it wasn't coming on the Valve Index for whatever reason. So went back to my CV1. The number one thing that jumped out at me is the CV1, like the colors are very muted. And the Valve Index is LCD, but the colors pop.
Yeah.
Like, I'm amazed at how much the colors pop.
Yeah. No, I haven't used my CV1 in forever because of the sensors, because I just hated the sensors. I did like that it had embedded headphones, though. I did like that about the CV1, and I like the touch controllers. I just hated having to try to set up those table sensors every single time. So, no, the Rift S, that solved all my problems for that. So, I mean, I'm probably going to get rid of my CV1 and sell it to somebody, because the Rift S kind of solved all my problems for it. But the Valve Index right now is kind of my primary.
Yeah, okay. I'm looking for just something to throw on the screen here real quick. I'm going to throw an Oculus guy on the screen. It's just a little picture of Jason Rubin. But I wanted to switch up real quick and just ask you a question, since we're talking CV1 and Rift S and that stuff. Very recently in the news, just yesterday, I think it was yesterday, Nate Mitchell left Oculus, left Facebook. And so now that Nate Mitchell is gone, I believe all the original Oculus people that did go to Facebook, they're all gone now, I think, or at least the vast majority of them. Yeah, Carmack, but he wasn't, like, he came on after the fact to Oculus. Like, he wasn't one of the original founders. But yeah, that's kind of a technicality. Yeah, Carmack is still there. But what do you think about this? Because I know you were like a DK1, DK2 kind of a guy. Like, weren't you like really early aboard this whole thing and kind of rooting for Oculus? And then, of course, Facebook came along and, you know.
And I was still rooting for Oculus after Facebook came along. I'm like, because they've got the money now. And I guess now knowing that kind of Facebook wants to get VR and a billion people into VR, and that's probably what clashed with Nate and all the other people that left, is because in order to get a billion people in VR, you need to sacrifice the high end, and you need to not do the high end stuff. And I think that's what, like, Nate and everybody else that left more recently, that's probably what they wanted to do, is the more high-end stuff. So it's a culture shift at Oculus, but it doesn't mean anything negative for Oculus. It just means they're going in a different direction than what the founders intended. And frankly, they got a lot of money from Facebook to make it no longer their baby.
So quick question. Now that Nate Mitchell, Brendan Arebe, Palmer Luckey, you know, all these guys are out there now. Now, unfortunately, they're probably all under non-compete clauses. Maybe Palmer's has expired by now, but Brendan Arebe and like Nate Mitchell, if he wanted to go directly to another VR company, I don't think he contractually could do that. Like, he's probably going to have to wait 2 years or something. He's probably under some kind of contract. But let's imagine that all those contracts disappeared into the mist. Do you think there's any chance whatsoever that all these original guys could get back together and, you know, let's start up the band, man? You know, any revival of like a new VR company with all these original guys?
I mean, anything's possible, but depending on why they left, they may be so jaded they may not want to do that. They may be ready to move on to do something else. I know that when I've done something for a long time, like in a job situation, and things changed enough, I left, and I didn't want to go back to that same line of work. I didn't want to go back to doing the exact same thing I'd already done, because I did that. Been there, done that, got that T-shirt. Time to move on. Time to try something new.
Yeah,
so
but
it's possible, yes, but will they want to? That's the key.
I understand what you're saying about not wanting to do the exact same thing, but it's like if they're if they're VR junkies and they have that vision of VR as the future, I would think this field is still wide open enough where if they could all, like if they all went to Google or something, and they started up a major Google VR thing, like it's still early enough that they could still do major damage and get into this race again. I don't know. But anyway, let's forget about that. Here's a completely separate question. So you talked about Facebook, and one of the things I've said a million times is like Facebook is the best thing that has ever happened to VR, but also the worst thing that has ever happened to VR. And I explain it from this standpoint. I say, okay, Facebook, it's great because they've got billions of dollars. They've got money galore and they're throwing it around. They've got a big stick and they can swing that big stick. Now, the reason why I think it's a bad thing is because I've said this as well. Facebook thinks in billions, not millions. Now, the good news is they've got this 10-year plan with VR. And so if they stick with it, then hopefully we've got 6 more years to go or whatever. So it'll be, or 5 years or whatever. So, they're going to still be in it for a while. The bad news is at a certain point, they're such a huge company that they're never going to be happy with little niches of consumers that are mildly happy. That's not going to work for them.
Yeah.
So what do you think about all of that?
Well, I know they said they had a 10-year plan, but we already know they've probably deviated from the 10-year plan because in the beginning they probably had a Rift 2, and now we don't have a Rift 2 anymore. That's gone. So I think initially they had talked about high-end stuff, and they've already deviated from it. So it's great that they had the plan in the beginning. I don't know if they're going to have it now. But where they are going to be good is getting VR more to the masses, along with maybe just as much, maybe not as much right now as Sony, because the PlayStation VR is just taken off. But I mean, Oculus has the capital to be able to get it out there and get that out in front of consumers who can't afford a high-end PC like you and me, or a Valve Index, which is $1,000. So I kind of see where you're coming from, but I also wouldn't put stock that their 10-year plan, they're still on it, because I think they've already deviated from it a lot.
Okay, but the Quest, so the Quest is their new thing, right? And they're in love with the Quest, and it's going gangbusters for them. Zuck, in his most recent talk to shareholders, said that basically they're selling them as fast as they can make them. And I think it may have slowed down just a little bit recently. I think people are able to find them now, and it's not as harsh of a like people are able to find them, but it's still a very hot product, and we haven't even gotten to the fourth quarter, and there still isn't I don't know that there's actual major TV advertising
there isn't.
Yeah, so that hasn't even happened yet either. So that's kind of a good sign when you think about all of this. Do you feel have you tried a Quest? Have you happened to try?
No, I haven't. Nobody I know has one.
Okay. Man, you've got to rectify that. There's got to be somebody in the general Atlanta area.
I think there is. I've just never been in the same place as them at the same time.
Because it really is a pretty fabulous product. It's got serious...
I have seen it on the shelves every time I go into Best Buy, though.
Okay.
So they're not selling out up here, at least. I mean, they may be stocking them really well, but I've always been able to see one. It's just, I've got a Rift S, and so I don't necessarily need a Quest in my life right now.
You need a Quest in your life, Bobby.
Why?
No.
Why?
Well, no, do you ever go on vacation? Have Quest, will travel.
I love this. I love this. Yes, I do go on vacation. You want to know what I do when I go on vacation?
You get away from
the sights.
Oh, okay.
I go and see the sights because I'm not a little kid. So I don't go places on vacation that I don't want to go. Younger people that have to go where their parents go on vacation, yeah, they're going to want to have some kind of way to get away from that stuff. But when I go somewhere, I want to see the place. So
wait. Do you ever go camping?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, see, if you went camping, the thing is, it depends on where you're going and what you're doing. Like, for example, I'm in Sacramento, California. Not far from where I'm at is a place called Lake Tahoe. And it's this, tourist destination that people go to.
Yep.
Like sometimes there's celebrities and stuff. Really beautiful place, right? And they have like cabins and things, and like you'll go to Lake Tahoe and you'll be going for bike rides, and you'll go to the lake and you'll do this and you'll do that. But there's always going to be a couple of hours where like nothing is going on, and your wife is like watching some dumb TV show, and then that's quest time, man. That's when it's so.
That's when I go out with a book and just hang out outside and enjoy nature.
Okay. I just went to New York. For the first time ever, I just went to New York. I brought my Quest with me, had all these elaborate plans of, I'm going to get Quest action in every day. I played it. I was in New York, I think, like 7 days. I played the Quest twice for about 25 minutes each time. That was it. It's like I always have these dreams of like, I'm going to be playing it a lot. It never happens.
Yeah, and a lot of the vacations I go on, I drive to, and I'm the driver. So even during the transportation, I don't have that much time. But I will say, because I saw this, the one reason, you want to know why I didn't get a Quest? Because I was almost on the fence getting a Quest, and then I read Vader Immortal was actually coming to the Rift after about a couple weeks. So I'm like, I can wait a couple weeks. And so when it came out on the Rift, I bought it for the Rift and played it in my Rift S. But had they not done that, I probably would have gotten a Quest. So it's Oculus's own fault.
Exactly, man. And that was my point. I actually did a show, like the first day I found out that Vader Immortal was coming to the Rift S, and like I was like, Oculus, you're marketing. Like somebody really needs to take over their marketing in terms of like release dates and dumb things like that. Like what I said about that, the whole Vader Immortal thing, I'm like, that's fine if you're bringing it to the Rift S, but do you need to tell anybody now? Let it be like an exciting thing for Quest people for like 2 months, then bring it to the Rift S. That way.
But it was nice to get people to buy the Rift S, which is more expensive than the Quest, or at least the low end of the Quest, and tell them, yes, you will be able to experience the Star Wars thing.
Pinnacle Rising says, bringing Quest on vacation is dumb. Okay, well, here's the thing. If you're going camping, though, if you're going camping, you're there all day long, and you're doing all kinds of things, there's going to be a couple hours where there's nothing going on at all, and it's perfect time for the Quest.
And that's when you relax.
Well, you're relaxing the whole damn time. Okay, I got a lot of questions I got to get to here. Let me go ahead and fire one up for you. Violent video games. So, I mean, obviously, this has been in the news recently. We've had these things happening in the United States. In fact, I think there was something happening in Philadelphia. We're not going to get into that, but what I wanted to ask you about, you've been a gamer since the old days, right? I mean, as long as I've been a gamer, and going all the way back to those days, I remember Lieberman and everybody, I remember like Night Trap and all of that. Like I remember video games has been the scapegoat for so long and continues to be the scapegoat. And I think primarily it's like you've got a lot of much older people. They never played video games in their life, and they know movies. They probably own stock in Disney. They probably have stock in Time Warner and Fox and whatever, but they don't have stock in Electronic Arts or Activision. And so they look to video games and they're like, well, we got to blame somebody. Let's blame video games. So that has happened again. And is there anything you wanted to say about that?
So here's why they do. Here's one of the reasons the politicians do that is because this happens every 5-10 years or whatever. Because I mean, even there was the Family Protection Act in the early 2000s and stuff. And what they're trying to do, and also Brown versus EMA or Schwarzenegger versus EMA before he left office was kind of the same thing, where politicians are like, all right, I'm going to do something. I'm going to do something. We're going to regulate the violent video games. And then it gets all the way up to the Supreme Court, and they say, no, that's unconstitutional. And so what they can say, they can go to their constituents and say, look, I tried to do something, but the Constitution got in the way. And that's it. Then they don't actually have to do anything. So that's why that they go to this length, is because they can now say, hey, I tried to do something, but the courts got in the way. My hands are tied, but at least I tried. Maybe we can, wait until the courts go our way.
What do you think, though, like longer term? Do you imagine that we're going to have a real problem, though, from a VR standpoint? Because I've been in certain experiences, like I've mentioned this before, there are certain stealth experiences where you actually, like, you're physically in the game, kind of. I mean, they don't have your body in the game yet and all of that, but like you're walking around as a avatar in the game, kind of, and you're sneaking up on a human character that is human sized, and you're going up behind him and you're doing the old, with a knife or whatever, you're doing like the Navy SEAL type of thing. And it's like, this is starting to get a little bit visceral here. And we've barely scratched the surface. Like, we don't have photorealism yet. Do you believe that this is going to be more of a problem specifically for VR than it is even for like monitor gaming?
So, well, yes, because it already has been, because I remember Oculus got in trouble for showing Robo Recall at a convention right after a shooting.
I heard about that.
There was that whole thing where, like, right after that, then they were showing Robo Recall, and everybody's like, really? But the counter to that we should be doing is, you're sitting here saying, yeah, in VR, you're going to really be, crouching behind, and it's very visceral, and a person who looks like a human. Yet I bet all those people, all those politicians or all those adults have played paintball at some point in their life. You want to talk about going behind you're actually going behind an actual human, sneaking through and shooting them with an actual gun that shoots actual paint that actually does leave a wart sometimes if the paintball doesn't explode. There's that. And there's also laser tag. QSAR was a thing when I was younger. But there's still laser tag places everywhere. I was just at Gen Con up in Indianapolis, a big board game convention, and they had a laser tag arena there that you could go into. And that's way more visceral than any VR would ever be. But people are going to look past that because that's, I guess, wholesome or something.
Yeah, okay, so I just threw a trailer on the screen. This is Blade and Sorcery. I'm not sure if you've ever played this, but it's gotten like really popular, and it's this game is basically stab a guy in the head. The game is pretty much what it is. This is a newer trailer, but like you're dismembering arms, and like you're taking a dagger and you're just like, and it's like coming like I mean, we can see it right here. It's pretty freaking like slicing and dicing. And at some point, like, I was in this game and I tried it out, and I will admit that when you're slicing people, and this is pretty cartoony and it's not incredibly realistic, but when you're doing it, it feels a little weird to me. Like, it really does. Like, did you ever play Accounting?
Yes.
That, that part where you cut open that stomach and all that? It's, even though it's like incredibly cartoony and stuff, see, who was the guy that was saying everything's a murder simulator, and he was like a lawyer from Florida? Remember that guy?
I call him Voldemort because we don't actually say his name, because then he'll show up.
Okay, but what is his name? Because I don't even remember what his name was.
Jack Thompson.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. But he was like, he's disappeared off the map. I don't know what happened.
Well, because he got disbarred.
Oh, okay.
He got disbarred, and
but
so he can't practice anymore.
His argument was, these are murder simulators, and I've never agreed with him. But at some point, he's going to actually be damn near right, with some of this stuff. It's going to be damn near a murder simulator.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we had this, if you remember the game Manhunt, this was on the PlayStation 2. And that's kind of what this was, is you go up and you hurt, you slice off their head and stuff like that. And the way that they had immersion was you could actually use the PlayStation 2 headset, and it was basically the director in your ear telling you what to do. And that made it like an AO game. Like, it was way over the top. It was a Rockstar game, obviously. So we've kind of had that conversation before, and that was, because the PlayStation 2 had great graphics at the time. That was like the pinnacle of. So we've been through this. It's going to be, again, yes, VR is going to get targeted. It's going to be silly because paintball's not targeted, laser tag's not targeted, but VR is going to be targeted for some of this. And it's just going to be the new rock and roll, the new Dungeons and Dragons, the new comic books.
Okay. But what about, like, I don't want to beat this topic into the ground, but But don't you think like 10 years from now, though, 15 years from now, there's eventually going to be a day where you put a VR headset. I've always said this, like I'm looking at this wall and I see this wall, right? I think there's going to be a day when I put on a VR headset and I'm not going to know, other than having like the weight of it on my head, I'm not going to know, do I have a headset on or do I don't? I mean, we're eventually going to hit legit photorealism. What about that? Doesn't that change the whole thing?
It might, but here's where we may actually have a little bit of reprieve. And it's because as time moves on, we start getting more people in power that grew up on video games. Right now, still, most people in Congress never played a video game. But eventually, we're going to get the people that grew up on the 8-bit Nintendo, which I know is not VR, but hang on, stick with me. But they're used to virtual entertainment. And so they kind of get it because they were raised on a little bit more. Maybe even then, we'll get some of the younger lawmakers in about 10 or 20 years that grew up on Grand Theft Auto, which I know is not VR, but it's virtual entertainment. And so to them, VR is just going to be a natural extension. So maybe the outcry won't be as much because we don't hear the outcry over rock and roll anymore because everybody now grew up listening to all the jam bands in the 60s that all, sang about Vietnam and stuff. And that's just normal. And so eventually we're going to get to that point where the lawmakers all grew up. Maybe they didn't play them, but they grew up around Nintendo or around Grand Theft Auto and all this stuff. So it's going to be just a little bit of a natural extension, but it's going to be a rocky road until we get there.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get off of that. Now, we were talking about Oculus a minute ago, and there is a question that I did want to ask you about Oculus because I feel like no one's really asking this question, and I think it deserves to be asked. Okay, so right now, I have a trailer on the screen. It's a PlayStation VR game. It's Blood and Truth. London Studio is a developer, very talented group of guys. And so here's my question from an Oculus standpoint. Okay, so the best thing about Facebook, the money. They're throwing it everywhere, right? They're throwing it at 4A Games. They're throwing it at Tripwire Interactive. In Exile,
which is right down the street from me, yeah.
Oh, okay. In Exile Entertainment with The Mage's Tale, Cytec Games with Winland, all the different games that they've had, either as like a timed exclusive or like legitimate full-on exclusive, they're throwing money. Robo Recall, Epic Games got 10 million, whatever. Okay, so all of these things are happening. But my question would be for like Jason Rubin and stuff, isn't he a little bit pissed off that they're spending all this money, they've got this high-end headset on a PC VR platform, and then here's freaking London Studio killing it with a game like Blood and Truth with better graphics in certain ways than some of these like where's the money going, Oculus? Like if I was Jason Rubin, I would be a little bit pissed off because I'd be like, dude, Insomniac, I gave you guys all this money and here's freaking London. Like, is London Studio just that much better of programmers than all these other studios that Oculus has already dealt with?
So here's the thing about London Studio. It's wholly owned by Sony Computer Entertainment. That's why.
So what? But I mean, these
in-house, it's a first-party in-house Sony development house,
which means they get more time to work on the game.
They're owned by Sony.
Yeah.
So they have access to all of Sony's engineers. They're not a third party. So Sony would not allow them to go to Oculus or get that money from Oculus because
no. I'm not saying that. Okay, I understand that. What I'm saying is, like, if you're Jason Rubin, I'm not saying that he needs to get Blood and Truth on Oculus. What I'm saying is they've invested money. Like they invested money. They gave it to 4A Games for Audica 1. They gave money to In Exile Entertainment for The Mage's Tale. They gave money for Tripwire Interactive for Killing Floor Incursion. They gave money to, whoever, blah, 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 all these different companies like Vader Immortal, blah, blah, blah. So they're giving money to all these people and they're having them make them a game. But what I'm saying is, shouldn't these games blow away something like Blood and Truth? Yet, I'm not saying Blood and Truth should be on Oculus. I'm just saying, like, they're not getting their money's worth. Like Like, because Blood and Truth looks so damn good, and it's got to run on a base level PlayStation 4. Like,
right. Oh,
what?
Blood and Truth only has to run on 2 different configurations: PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 4 Pro. All those other games you mentioned has to run on a whole slew of different PC configurations with a whole bunch of different video cards. And I know that sounds like it shouldn't be that big of a deal, but it actually is.
I actually, that's a decent explanation. I can go ahead and roll with that one. Okay. That's one thing, because you know what? The reason why I can kind of agree with that thought that you just popped there is the Oculus Quest, baby. I'm playing Red Matter on the Oculus Quest, and it is drop dead gorgeous. It is so close to what we have on PC VR, and the reason why is it's a locked in stone.
Yes.
Everyone has the exact same amount of memory, clock speed, everything is identical. Okay, since we're on the subject real quick of the Oculus Quest, and I know you're not an Oculus Quest guy, you haven't even tried it, but a lot of my fan base is very PC VR. Like, they're the hardest of the hardcore. PC VR guys, right? That's what they're into. And a lot of them hate the Oculus Quest. What's going, like, why are they scared? Like what's the fear? Why do so many people, it seems like like they just want it to die. I don't know if it's like they think that there's only so many resources out there, and, go ahead, elaborate.
So remember your rant a little bit about 20 minutes ago when I mentioned Vader Immortal was coming out to the Rift S and how upset you were about that?
Yeah.
That's why. Because they're worried that all the good stuff's now going to go to the Quest, and they're going to buy this high-end VR system, and they're not even going to get to play the marquee titles because they're going to release them just on the Quest, which is exactly what you wanted them to do 20 minutes ago. So that's what it is. It's not that there's not resources. It's they're going to lock all that stuff to their Quest platform, and people playing PC VR are going to be left behind.
So now you bought a Rift S, and so you got a Rift S a little while ago, right? So
I got it on. It was on launch day, yeah.
Okay, so you've invested in that Rift S. What about this? Does this worry you? Because I think a legitimate, realistic fear, like this is a real thing here, is that going forward, could Oculus say, okay, look, here's what we want you to do. Make a game for the Oculus Quest and then upport it over to the Rift S, because, we got to keep these PC VR people happy, but make sure it's good on the Quest, and then just, throw in some extra high-res textures and we'll call it a day.
Yeah.
Is that the future for Oculus? Like, is that the future for Rift S?
Maybe. Because the Rift S was just a tangential upgrade, which was a great upgrade. I mean, the tracking is phenomenal on it, which I hated the CV1 tracking, so I was really happy with the tracking on the Rift S. But yeah, I think that's where they're going. That's why we had all those departures, because they wanted to make the Rift 2. They wanted to compete with Valve. They wanted to compete with HTC, and Facebook doesn't want it. They want to create their own market with the Quest, and right now they're pretty much the only ones in the market for that, and that's where they want to go. So I can see people saying, okay, now they're gonna make games for this that only work on the Quest, but then thankfully people can make games using Steam VR and they'll run on the Rift S.
Have you tried any of, so you don't have the Quest, but have you tried any of the ports? I'm guessing you did play Vader Immortal.
Yes.
What about any of the other ones, like Journey of the Gods, or any of the other ones?
No.
Okay. What'd you think of Vader Immortal, by the way?
I enjoyed it. That would be, I've got some friends that are Star Wars nuts, and the one other time I put, especially one of them that I'm thinking of in particular, I put him in the Trials on Tatooine, the 5-minute experience in the Vive, and he was in heaven with that. And I think I really want him to come over and do the whole Vader Immortal experience, because I think he would get a huge kick out of it. So I think it's very well done. It ran very well on my Rift S, and I'm glad I got it.
Is Vader too tall?
I'm short, so everybody's too tall.
But dude, Vader in that experience, Vader is straight up like LeBron James or something. He's like on steroids. It's like,
well, so was the original.
Yeah, I don't know if he was that yoked out. Okay. Oh, one other question I have. It's an Oculus related question. The reason I threw this trailer on here. So Oculus Connect 6 is about to happen in late September. I'm hoping to go. I don't know if I'll be able to, but I'm hoping to go to that. What do you think's going to happen at that? Do you think the PC VR hardcore lovers, the hardcore Oculus nut jobs that have been there since the beginning, is it going to be more bad news for them, like nothing about any kind of better advanced PC VR headset? Are we going to get, is Oculus going to freaking come out with some kind of AR thing? Like, my audience hates AR even worse than the Quest. And so is it going to be a whole lot of AR? Like, is it going to be all bad news?
No, it's not going to be all bad news, but they're going to do what they think is going to get 1 billion people into VR. Like, that's what you got to realize, is that their goal is to get 1 billion people in VR. And so whatever announcements they make are going to be tailored to getting 1 billion people in VR.
What about the whole AR thing?
I mean, I don't know if they're going to announce any of that stuff here, because AR, like headset AR development, is still really in its infancy. So I mean, Apple's got their AR on the phones, but I mean, I can't see too much of Facebook doing that right now. But if it helps get 1 billion people into VR, adding in some AR stuff, because Pokemon Go is pretty hot still. And so is like that Harry Potter Wizards Unite. They may want a piece of that.
Okay, let's go ahead. Speaking of AR, let's switch over to Apple for just a second. So Apple's been in the news in the VR AR news space back and forth a little bit. There was a news story a while back from some website saying that Apple had like a major AR thing. They canceled it. Okay, so that was a news story, not confirmed or anything. It was, I don't know if it was real or not. Then there's been a more recent news story. I believe it's Susan Vorath. Don't quote me on that, but the last name is Vorath. I think it might be Susan. She's one of the very high up Oculus executives, and she got moved over to their AR VR division to try to like whip them in line and get things going on over there. And then also they were hiring, like they have all these jobs that are open for VR/AR. And so my question is, like, when I think of Apple, I can't even imagine a VR product from Apple. I can imagine an AR product from them, but probably not until like 2024 or something, 2025. What do you think about Apple? Are they going to get into this game? Is it going to be a while? I mean, they're so focused on like style and the whole thing,
I cannot wait for Apple to invent VR. Because that's what they do. 12, 13 years ago, nobody would have ever thought Apple would make a phone. And then nobody ever thought Apple would make a tablet. And in fact, somebody else made a tablet computer, touchscreen tablet computer, held it up in 1999. His name was Bill Gates. He basically got booed off the stage. It flopped. Steve Jobs comes out with one that does all the exact same stuff. It's visionary. Apple finally invented tablet computing. Apple finally invented the smartphone, even though there were other smartphones on the market at the time, actually by Microsoft. I actually had a Windows Mobile 5 phone because they said that I could customize my car in the Xbox 360 version of Forza with Windows Mobile 5. They never came out with that, but I bought that phone. It was more like PDA. But then Apple comes in and invents it, and suddenly now it's okay. And so I am looking forward to the day that Apple comes in and invents VR, because that will just grow the audience for everything.
But you legitimately see, like, what would it look like? Like, I just can't imagine it.
It would be very stylish. It's going to be really stylish. Bono from U2 is going to have it on his face. He's going to dance around and sing some song about it. It's going to be stylish. All the hip young kids are going to want it, and they're all going to get into VR. And then Oculus is going to be like, wait, we wanted you 1 billion over here on our thing.
Yeah, but I thought, like, okay, I can see what you're saying. have you ever seen those in real AR goggles that kind of look? They look like real sunglasses almost, like
Yeah.
pretty close. Like I could see something like that, but you can't do that. You can't do VR with that. Not for like another 15 years are you going to be able to do VR like that. So they're going to come out with like a bulky thing, like a real bulky. How do you
But it's
even
going to
make
be
VR
a
sexy?
stylish. It's going to be a stylish, bulky thing, and everybody's going to want it because Taylor Swift will be in an ad hawking it, and everybody's going to want that.
I don't know.
That's the Apple
we'll see
effect.
About
That is the
we'll
Apple
see about
effect.
That. Okay.
And I hate Apple, and that's the Apple effect. Just let it out there.
Okay, I'm trying to look at my questions real quick because we are past the 1 hour mark. So I just wanted to see if there were any other major. Oh, okay. Here's a question for you. So Electronic Arts and Activision, we mentioned them a while back, and there's a number of companies out there that have basically ignored AR. I mean, they've ignored VR for the most part, right? Electronic Arts being one of them, and Activision. I mean, what did they do? They had like some little Call of Duty mode and some type of game, but for the most part, they've ignored it. When do you think companies like that will come aboard, or will they ever?
Oh, eventually. I mean, I'm sure they will, but they're still looking at the market, and they're like, I mean, they're going away from a lot of the games that people like because now they're doing games as a service. And so you can get more people playing your game as a service and playing it every month if it's available on a TV or monitor. So that's I think like EA's probably got some indie studios that might do VR some stuff, but they don't see the billion people there yet. So they're going to kind of stay away. They need to concentrate on their bread and butter. So it really depends on how the market reacts to VR before they'll really commit.
You know what I always thought, though? I thought these big companies like this, like maybe they're not into VR. They don't think VR is going to be a big thing or anything like that. But I still thought they would at least dip their toes in the water, just
They did.
purely defensively, just in case this thing.
Activision did. They did that Call of Duty thing. You mentioned it.
Yeah, but that's not. I mean, that's
That's
really
them dipping their toes.
That is
them
barely
dipping their toes.
Yeah.
They looked at the download numbers because they have all that information, and they probably decided, all right, if that many people, because it was a free thing, it wasn't part of the game. It was actually free, and they looked at how many people downloaded it and played it because they get that tracking information from PlayStation, and they probably said, all right, if they are not willing to download a free thing that we put out, why are we going to invest any money? Because they're definitely not going to buy it.
Okay, our next topic, EGS. 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 Do you know what that is? What is the EGS?
Are you talking about Epic Game Store?
Yes, I am. Yes. It's funny, man. So I was on NeoGAF, like, I don't know how long ago, and I was in some, like, little thread on there, and people were saying EGS this and EGS that. I'm like, what the hell are these people talking about? What the hell is EGS? And then I was like, oh, duh, Epic Game Store. And it's like, so what's your thoughts on this? Because I'm kind of split. Like, I'm like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde with this thing. I want them to fail. There's a part of me that wants them to fail miserably. There's a other part of me that wants them to like, stick it to Steam a little bit,
Well, they've been sticking it to Steam, so you should be happy.
I am a little bit, yeah.
So, yeah, no. So I can see a lot of people want them to fail just because of their arrogance, and it's their attitude is probably why they want them to fail, or why a lot of people want them to fail. And it's because like people like, we're probably all for competition because that's what they're for is competition on storefronts, but they're going through and basically saying, okay, well for this, there's no competition. We're locking the competition out, and it'd probably be fine for games that hadn't been announced yet. But when you start dipping into Kickstarters and Patreons and people who supported the game and bought the game a year ago, helped fund its development, in the hopes of getting a Steam code, and now they're suddenly told, oh, no, you're going to get Epic Game Store code. And people don't want that because they've done the Epic Game Store client did have some shady practices where it went on your computer and it pulled your Steam friends list without your permission and it pulled some other information, and then it asked you, hey, can we send this information up to Epic? But it was because Epic's owned by Tencent, which is a Chinese company. That puts some people on edge. And Epic's like, yeah, we go around and we pull some of these files because we're trying to make it better for you. And I think just a lot of people didn't like the way they answered that and how they approached that, and how Epic's basically saying, oh, it's Steam's fault that we have to buy all these exclusives. If Steam didn't have such a punchable face, we wouldn't punch them as much. So I think the reason people probably want them to fail is just the attitude. Or that's the main thing I hear.
Yeah.
I'm not going to speak for everybody out there, but it's the attitude and stuff. Because we have other game stores on PC. Oculus is a game store that's on PC, and they've got their exclusives. But we've got GOG, EA, and Ubisoft have their own storefronts. But Microsoft has actually come out and said, yeah, we're actually going to release our games on Steam rather than just on the Windows Store. So it's kind of interesting to watch all this kind of go about.
You know what I've always said about these things? See, I'm an old school gamer guy, very similar to you, been playing games all my life. And it's like, yeah, everybody's going to have their own store. But see, back in the days, it was like, okay, Sega comes out with a Saturn, so you got to buy Saturn games. And Sony has the PlayStation, you got to buy PlayStation games. And I was cool with all of that. And then in this modern era, like, I'm okay with Oculus they have a hardware platform, they have a store. Like Magic Leap, if it was like a thing that anybody cared about, they have a store, but they have a hardware thing. My problem is freaking regular game companies creating stores. They don't got no goddamn hardware platform.
Right.
Like, why do we have to have 25 clients on our Like, do you like this? Do you have Epic Games? Like, do you own Epic Games Store?
Yes, I have the client on here because of the free games. The reason I don't buy anything, well, because they give out free games.
Yeah, and that's how they get you. That's what I tell everybody.
But what I don't like to do is I do not trust any of these game companies, console, PC, any of them, with my credit card info. And so I can't buy anything on the Epic Game Store because in order to buy something from the Epic Game Store, I have to give them either my credit card info or my PayPal info. And these game companies have been hacked so many times, and I've had so many people seen where they've had to deal with chargebacks and stuff like that, that I don't want to do that. With Steam, Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft, I can go down to my local grocery store and buy a wallet card, little points card, and add it to my account. And that's how I buy games. I can't do that with the Oculus Store. I actually did have to temporarily give Oculus access to my payment stuff to get Vader Immortal, and then I immediately revoked it. But I wanted Vader Immortal that badly. So that's why I don't buy anything on the Epic Game Store, is because I don't want to give them my financial information because I don't trust them. My Epic Game Store account has already been hacked once. They got nothing because I had no money on it and nothing that wasn't a free game.
Wow, interesting.
So that's why I personally don't buy anything on there. And I don't give Valve my credit card information. The only time I did was for the Valve Index. And so hopefully that's going to be safe. But like, it's not stored on their servers. I go and I buy wallet cards and add them to my wallet.
But is there any, well, I don't want to beat this into the ground, but I mean, is there any kind of worry though that like, I mean, what major company doesn't have does Activision have a store? Why don't they? Like,
yes, they do.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's called Battle.net.
Blizzard. Yeah. Okay. You know what? I did have a TV question for you before we get out of here. So here's my TV question. So imagine the year is 2040, the year of Gaben 2040. So 20 years from now, it sounds like you're going off into the next millennium or something when you say 2040, but it's only 20 years away, right? Kind of crazy. So 20 years from now, assuming that there is something like a Best Buy where you go to a place and they have or like a Fry's Electronics. Like if I go to Best Buy right now or I go to Fry's, there's a department that has TVs. Yep. What are they going to have 20 years from now? Are we still going to have TVs? Really? Yep. Okay. Yep. So you're sticking hard with this TV thing.
No. I love this. This was my favorite part the last time I was on the show. This was my favorite part. And I actually reference this. I actually speak on panels about VR, and I've actually brought up the last time I was on your show, because 99 times out of 100, when I'm talking about VR, I am always trying to convince the other side that VR is the future, VR is here to stay, VR is amazing, and it's not going away. And then I come here onto VR 365, and suddenly I'm on the other side of the argument saying, no, TV's not going anywhere. Monitor games aren't going anywhere. VR is going to be great, but monitor games aren't going away. And I've got several reasons why. I've got several reasons to back up my opinion. Ready for this?
Okay.
So 10 years ago, everybody thought once Apple invented smartphones, and they invented the ability for apps to come out on said smartphones. People said nobody's going to play on TV anymore because they're going to play on their smartphone. They're going and they don't need to worry about buttons anymore because the entire screen is a button. And where they were right and wrong is that today mobile gaming is the most lucrative side of gaming, and it has the most players. However, hardcore strategy games on PC haven't gone away. Console games haven't gone away. It's just expanded the market. There was a question in your chat room earlier. Are there even 1 billion flat screen gamers? No, there aren't. Oculus still wants to get 1 billion people into VR because there's 7 billion people in the world. So that's one of the reasons I'm saying they're not going to go away, because mobile gaming was supposed to get rid of all this stuff, and all it did was just grow the market. It didn't get rid of anything else. The other reason I don't think that pancake games are going away is because I look at some people who play games.
Oh, there's
like
going to be retro gamers. There's going to be retro gamers still with their flat.
No, because in the perfect world, in the 2040 world, I'm going to guess. I'm going to make an assumption, and you'll tell me I'm wrong. That, like, let's take Call of Duty. Let's say in this world, Activision has woken up and they're making games for VR. In your world, Call of Duty is a game where you are physically standing up, and if it's made correctly in VR, you're standing up. Everything is you aiming, so everything is tied to your physical ability of aiming, crouching, all that stuff. You can't 360 no scope in VR, so we're going to get rid of 360 no scoping and all that stuff. Today, what a lot of gamers are, especially Call of Duty gamers, is let's say they work in a restaurant. And they worked a double shift.
Yeah, I remember this argument. Okay.
They had a crappy day. They had some customers that were rude to them. That wasn't their fault. It might have been the kitchen's fault, but they got a lousy tip. They complained to the customer complained to the manager. So they had a crappy day on their double shift. They're tired. They've been on their feet all day. All they want to do is they come home, they get on their couch, they sit there with their controller, they open up Call of Duty, and they just want to pwn some noobs. In the perfect VR world, that would not be an option for them, because in order to play Call of Duty and pwn some noobs, you actually still have to be on your feet, ducking, jumping, aiming. My aim is terrible with an actual controller, or with an actual like Knuckles controller. It's even pretty bad. You should see my Audica scores. But I'm okay with a thumbstick. I'm okay with sitting with my abstraction device on my couch, not being physical at all, which is the antithesis of everything VR stands for.
Okay, but wait.
Those gamers, there's so many of them that's why monitor gaming, TV gaming, and using abstraction devices like a controller, they're not going to go away. They're not going to go to VR, because not everybody wants to be physically active just to play a shooter game.
Okay, so yeah, when you need to relax, Trover Saves the Universe or Dirt Rally. There's plenty of stuff you can sit down.
So what you're saying is that person that would play Call of Duty, you're saying that option will no longer be available to them in 20 years.
What I'm saying is VR and AR is going to be so friggin' good that that all of this argument that you have is going to fly away into the wind, because no one's even going to think about it, because there's going to be so many compelling. Forget about it. I don't care what people used to use sewing machines. People used to read newspapers and magazines.
People still do all that.
Yeah, but and people still play Nintendo and TurboGrafx, but there will be people playing Call of Duty 20 years from now. They'll just be They'll be like,
But they won't be able to relax. They won't be able to sit back on their couch with an abstraction device and play Call of Duty anymore. The only way they would be able to play Call of Duty is if they were on their feet, ducking, jumping on their own, actually aiming with their hands and all that stuff. And I think that's a terrible future.
But they'll have third person mode, like they'll have a third person mode for. But so you think that's a terrible future? But here's what I think: it's like people.
The terrible future is that is the only option. We're going to take away the option to be able to play a shooter game without moving. And
but
in the perfect VR world, that's exactly what we would do. Because it would be a poorly designed VR game if you could play a shooter game without actually moving any of your limbs. That would be a terrible VR game.
In this perfect VR world that we're talking about, though, you're going to be so distracted by everything else, you're not going to care. It's like, so I can go to a thrift store right now, right? And when I go to a thrift store, I see the old boxy TVs, 4:3 big picture tube TV. But there's grandmas out there that still have those. There's some people out there that still have those. But what I'm saying is 20 years from now, the idea of having a TV that is locked to one wall is just going to seem like such an antiquated idea, because you're going to be able to have a screen anywhere at any time, any size, perfect resolution.
What if I want to watch something with my wife?
You're gonna be like, honey, what frequency are you on? I'm on 7.12.5.
So you do realize 3D TVs failed because everybody had to have their own set of glasses, and not everybody wanted that, right?
Yeah.
So basically, it didn't work this time. So what if I want, if like a Super Bowl party, if we don't have a TV?
Yeah. So in the backyard, that's what everybody says. No.
Everybody's got to have their own stuff.
It's going to be implanted at birth. Okay,
It's
maybe not in 20 years, but no.
Future.
I have this idea for a barbecue, right? Okay, so you go to a barbecue, and you're like, hey, you're watching the game, like people are sitting around, right? And a lot of them are looking up at the sky every once in a while. And you're like, why are they looking up at the sky? There's nothing in the sky. And then you're like, hey guys, you watching the game? What frequency are you on? Boom. Now you're seeing the Super Bowl in the sky on a gigantic 1,000,000-inch screen. Shared experiences, baby.
Yeah, or you could just have the shared experience where you just literally walk to something and it's there.
Well, you can go into the room that is like circa 1990, and you can go back into the past with that. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, we agreed. So what about this, though? Is there going to be a day where what I'm saying is going to happen?
I hope not.
But
it's not a no, it's not going to happen. It's a I hope it doesn't happen.
You hope it doesn't happen, but if it does happen, won't it mean that there's other things going on that are so effing compelling? See, the thing is, you want to hold on to the familiar that, you grew up playing a certain way. That's one of the biggest problems we have right now with all the flat gamers out there. They've been on a sofa with their controller in hand. That's the way they grew up. They've always played that way. Yeah, and then they get an Oculus Rift. They play it for a month. It goes back into the closet. Why? Because they want to go back to the sofa because it's a comfortable. It's like hey, all the media out there.
my favorite PSVR game of last year was Tetris Effect, because I could play it on my sofa, leaning back with the controller.
Yeah. Okay.
And one of my favorite, and here's the thing. One of my favorite actual PC VR games that's not Audica is actually another game where I just sit in this chair and I actually use this abstraction device, this Xbox One controller.
Device.
It's American Truck Simulator. That's actually one of my favorite VR experiences, where basically I'm just driving a big rig and I'm just driving around America. And, it sounds silly, and it is. It sounds boring, and it can be, but I like road trips. But I like just sitting there, driving the truck with my abstract. Like, I don't even have a wheel. Like, everybody else is like, oh, you got to get a wheel with the gear changer and the foot pedals. I'm like, no, I want my little abstraction device and just go like this. And that's the most fun that I have in VR, because I love Audica. After about 5 or 10 minutes, my arms are screaming at me right up here, the tops of my arms, because I don't warm up. I don't actually do physical exercises. So holding the guns out and like that, my arms hurt after about 5 or 10 minutes. But I can sit there for 2, 3, 4 hours playing a game where I'm just sitting back with a controller.
Hey, you know how you were saying in Audica that you can throw your guns? What would you
Yeah,
do that? Like, is there a reason to do that?
style.
Oh, okay. But
Because a
like,
lot of times I'm streaming, and so what I'll actually do is like in between, like when there's like a short area, I'll actually throw the guns out and then pull them back in, and it's more style.
but can you know how there's those little boulders that are like flying at you?
Yeah.
Can you throw your guns and hit
No,
those? Or
no,
okay,
you actually have to have the gun in your hand
yeah.
to hit those.
Because for me, whenever the guns disappear, I'm like, what the hell's going on? What the hell's going on? It's only on the Valve Index, I think, that your guns
Yeah, well,
disappear
because
like
they
that.
actually
Yeah.
track if you're holding the grip button, which was not a case. You had to early on. You had to use the thumbstick or the left part of the Vive controller to that. If you hold them like to the side and down, they actually like you twirl the guns in your hand, which is also something I'll sometimes do, just for style.
Yeah, yeah. There's some cool style things you can do. I don't know if you've ever played Blood and Truth on PlayStation VR, but like you can flip your gun and do like a lot of crazy things. It's pretty cool. All right, Bobby. Well, you know what? I have my list of questions here, and I probably have like 10 questions I didn't get to, but oh well. We've been going for a little while, and I normally would be willing to go like a solid 2 hours because I love this conversation. You are an interesting guest. I like having you on here. But it's dinner time, man. I'm starving.
Yep.
I got to eat some food, so I'm going to have to say goodbye to you. But man, it was a great show. I appreciate it. My fans, I'm telling you, like I said, they've always said, dude, you got to get Bobby back on. You got to get Bobby back
Well,
on.
now they know you have 10 more questions, so
Yeah. So we're going to have to
just
do
have
it
to save
again.
the-
But
save
here's the
that piece
thing.
of paper for next time.
Okay, two things though, Bobby, for the next time. Homework assignments.
Okay.
I was going to ask you this today, but we don't have enough time. I don't know if you've ever played the Invisible Hours, because we mentioned this on our last conversation, and I said it's the first movie in VR. It's by Tequila Works. It's called The Invisible Hours. It's like a cartoon movie in VR. Did you get a chance to try that or no?
No, I have not tried it.
Okay, so that is a homework assignment.
Okay.
And then the second homework assignment, you got to try an Oculus Quest. Come on, where are the Atlanta people? Hit them
I know,
up.
where are you?
Hit them
me
up. Yeah. Let them try some Oculus Quest action. But yeah, so those are two things, but I'll definitely get you back on here. Maybe, so today is the launch of NoManSki. So maybe we'll bring you back on when like Stormland comes out or something on that day.
And I do want to say I do really enjoy coming on here, and I do really like VR, even though I am saying not. I kind of argue against it in the end there, but I do really like VR. I hope it continues on the path it's going. I hope it gets better and better, and we get all that stuff because I really am a fan. I wouldn't have all this stuff with googly eyes, every single type of because I even have the little Nintendo one too, if I didn't like it, and if I didn't think it had a future. So even though I'm kind of trying to be a realist on it. I do really like it, and I hope that everything gets better. And I look forward to bigger and better things.
Yeah, did you want to plug your show? Because I know you get into VR a little bit on your show here or there, and off and on.
So I've been a video game podcaster for 14 years. I actually just celebrated 14 years a couple weeks ago, and I name it after myself, which was the dumbest thing ever. But Jay Leno can't take my spot, so it's called the Bobby Blackwolf Show. Because I only thought I was going to do it for like a couple weeks. So I was like, I don't care about the name because podcasting was new. Apple invented podcasts. It was about a month after iTunes added podcasts in 2005 is when I started, back when we only had like 50 video game podcasts. So I did pretty good for a time. But I've always done the show live. We used to do it over Shoutcast Internet Radio, MP3 streaming back then. On Sunday nights at the same time that you do your show usually. So 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. So the same time you do your show. But in December of last year, we moved to Twitch. So I am on the Voice of Geeks Network, which is the network I co-founded with the longest running video game podcast on the internet, Orange Lounge Radio. They've been going since 2002.
Sacramento based too.
Yes, they're based in Sacramento as well. So we're live on Sunday nights over at twitch.tv/VOG Network, VOG Network. So if you want to watch the live video, you can go there. If you don't like Twitch, don't want to go to Twitch, I'm in Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, anywhere where you get podcasts. You can just search for the Bobby Blackwolf Show and subscribe to it then and enjoy it there.
Yeah, I straight up, like those of you that are like me, where you go to a boring day job, but you're able to listen to podcasts and stuff. It's perfect, man. The Bobby Blackwolf show. I mean, you could go back. How many, like, if somebody did go to like iTunes or whatever, how far back does it go? Can they go
So
like,
iTunes, I only put the last 100 episodes on iTunes. However, if you go to bobbyblackwolf.com, I go all the way back to episode 1.
wow.
So iTunes, I only, because RSS feeds can only be so large.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
cap it at the last 100, and I just did episode 672 this week. So you can only go back to episode 570 right now on iTunes. But my website, you can go all the way back to episode 1 and hear how terrible it was.
God, that is amazing. I remember the good old days back when it was like Major Nelson, and to me, there was only like 10 podcasters. I guess there was like 50, but I mean, in the video game area. But I listened to you guys, OLR, and I remember when I first heard that OLR was talking about like Sunrise Mall, and I'm like, Sunrise Mall?
Yep.
Are they in Sacramento? And I'm like, oh my God, they're in the Sacramento area.
Yeah, no, they started because I think Roseville Golfland is where they all played DDR. And that's how OLR actually got started, it was all the people that went to play DDR at Roseville Golfland. And after they'd play DDR, they'd all go to they'd like go to like a pizza place or something and just talk. And they're like, we should stream this live on Live 365. And that's how OLR got started.
Do they, being fans of like rhythm games like that, have they screwed around with Beat Saber, Audica,
Yes.
and
Yeah,
what do they?
So Rob Roberts, who is the one of the 3 hosts of Orange Lounge Radio, he comes out to Atlanta for Dragon Con, which is where I'm going to be Labor Day weekend, and I am on a VR panel about the holodeck on the Star Trek track. So if you're going to be at Dragon Con, come check that out on Sunday.
Bring your Quest.
Yes, bring your Quest, and I'll try it. But so he came out, and so like when Beat Saber came out, he played it on the Vive because we get a suite in one of the hotels at Dragon Con. So I actually set up my Vive in the suite so he could try it. And so he played that. And I had him do like Audio Shield back when that first came out because that was a big thing when the Vive launched. And so he's really looking forward to trying Audica. He does have a PlayStation VR. He does have Beat Saber. So he does get into those.
Sweet. One last question. I know we're outroing here and it's gone on a little while, but just because you're mentioning it, okay, so we know about Beat Saber, we know about Audica. You mentioned Audio Shield. Would that be like the third rhythm kind of game that you would throw out there for maybe people to check out? Or?
Not anymore.
Okay.
Because unfortunately, they've had to remove so many features from it. When it came out, it worked with SoundCloud and it worked with YouTube. It now no longer works with SoundCloud or YouTube because they got in trouble with YouTube and SoundCloud. So no, I wouldn't. So the other rhythm games, there's a couple games that I haven't gotten yet that that people have told me that I should try. Synth Riders apparently is a pretty good VR game. And then there's another one that's actually it's a Japanese rhythm game, and I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. I have to pull up I have to pull up my Steam wish list to figure it out. But those would be probably the next ones that I would look at. But I know Synth Riders is one that's been recommended to me, and I've been meaning to pick it up just to see.
Okay, Bobby. Well, man, thank you so much. Absolutely appreciate it. Had a great time. It's amazing, man. I do a show with a guest like you. Bam, the show is over, and it's like no work at all.
There's one rhythm game that I enjoyed that I will never be able to play again because Rock Band VR is not supported with the new touch controllers.
Oh man, isn't there some kind of adapter or something? No,
somebody can probably 3D print and adapt. I have a friend with 3D printers, so maybe if somebody knows. But the new touch controllers don't work with the original adapter on the guitar, and that is another game I bought on the Oculus Store. I paid $50 for Rock Band VR, and now it's like I can't play it.
And you know what? The beautiful thing about Rock Band VR is it's provided us one of the goofiest pictures I've ever seen in my life, which is Palmer Luckey and the harmonics guy, and they're like looking at each other. I'm looking at you, bro. You know that picture I'm talking about? Oh, it's hilarious. I love it. Okay, well, Bobby, thank you so much again for coming on the show. Awesome, incredible. We will absolutely have you back on in a few months. Somebody get a Quest out to him. Try Invisible Hours. It's worth it. It goes on sale. You know, VR, the nice thing about VR, every other month, a major VR sale. In fact, like every other week, damn near, there's a major VR sale. And usually, like if you ever go to an Evil G, and I know you don't like to go to that place, but they've had Invisible Hours because it's Game Trust. It's their freaking publisher, right? They have like a physical copy of Invisible Hours for like $6 or something. So it's worth trying out. But we'll get you back on. You can talk about that. We'll talk some other questions and talk maybe some more about No Man's Sky and any other new releases, and we can argue about TVs.
Yeah, so what's for dinner?
Fun. I don't know. I'd love to get some Thai food, but it's getting kind of late. I don't know if I can run over there. But anyway, man, thanks so much. I'm going to go ahead and hang up on you, but really appreciate it. And I can talk to you on Discord or whatever, and thanks so much again.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. See you later, Bob.
Yep.
Alrighty. Alrighty. Well, that was Bobby Blackwolf. Absolutely appreciate it. Sorry, guys, for chat. Not really paying much attention to you guys over there, but it kind of was getting crazy. I was looking at chat, and it started to go crazy. People talking about presidents and all kinds of crazy stuff. So I had to kind of stopped looking at chat for a while. But I still think this is a great conversation. I know some people might have got pissed off a little bit because we're going into topics of like video game violence and AR and like all these future far-flung topics. But I had fun, and that was the key thing. I had all these questions, got to most of them. There were a couple of them we didn't get to, but we'll save that for next time. And somebody definitely hit them up with your Oculus Quest. There's got to be somebody in the greater Atlanta area that can swing by and show them an Oculus Quest. And then next time we'll be able to talk to them about that. But that's going to go ahead and do it for this episode of VR 365 Live. Of course, I will be back tomorrow on a platform that is not dead. It is not dead. Twitch lives. And I will be back on Twitch tomorrow, 5 p.m. Pacific time. Check me out over there. And then we'll be back on YouTube on Friday and Saturday, back to back on YouTube, and then Sunday back on Twitch. When am I going to try No Man's Sky? That's a very good question. I was hoping to try it today, but it's some weirdness. So I'm trying to do family share with somebody. I wonder if it's because they're in the UK, like it's not showing up in our account. I can't see No Man's Sky, like none of the games are showing up, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do. So I have not played No Man's Sky yet. I'd like to check it out. Don't know what I'm going to do. But anyway, bottom line, I will be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific time on Twitch. I'll talk to you guys then. I got to go get some dim sum. I got to go get some dinner. I'm hungry. I'm starving. I'll see you guys then. Everybody take it easy. Later.